Hey there guys, today we're taking a look at the Scaletrains operator release of the Dash 9s, this time of course in BC Rail livery. So stay tuned, we'll take a look at what you get for the money, what it has to offer, and put it through a quick test. So let's get started. Alright, so to get a couple questions out of the way first, I know the first one's going to be, why didn't you wait for a rivet counter? Number one, the BC Rail blue livery's never been my top favorite. Two-tone green and red, white, and blue are my favorites personally. And I don't want to spend $300 on a rivet counter that I'm going to kind of like. So to me, even if the windshield ain't the teardrop or isn't perfect, I'm okay with adding detail parts myself and calling it close enough. And yes, this thing does have the detail kit I bought with it, and it's getting a Canadian bell and rock lights. So stay tuned for that project. Now for those who don't know what the Operator series is, this is kind of Scaletrain's budget series models. But this, unlike some other companies, doesn't necessarily mean they're lower quality nor crappier detail. They're a base product, marketed as such, and they do really, really well. I'll put it to you like this. No other base locomotive on the market, except maybe Walther's, has a locomotive with this much weight. This is an absolute brick because the chassis is the exact same as the rivet counter. So you are paying for a budget detail, but the guts are the exact same, smooth drivetrain, everything you expect out of the top shelf models in a budget form. To me, that's my favorite part because, again, unlike some companies, I don't have to spend more money upgrading the drivetrain, switching out motors, and dealing with tooling that's horribly outdated for a modern locomotive. That aside, let's get to what we have here. So today on deck, we have BC Rail number 4648. So in BC Rail terms, I'll indulge my inner BC Rail nerd for a moment. It was part of the order of the Dash 9 44Ls, so it had the Canadian cab with the little teardrop window, so basically just notched down. To me, again, it's close enough on these locomotives. Now, if it was red, white, and blue, that's another story, because you got the marker lights, you have everything else. But the blue units appear close enough to a standard Dash 9. Unless you really know what you're looking at, you're not going to notice it. So anyone looking at your layout, visiting, or whatever, they're not going to know the difference. But in terms of your overall appearance, they did really, really well on this. The BC Rail Blue matches up really close to other models I have. Currently, I've just got a Broadway and an Atlas, and that's really all I care to dabble with the blue, but it looks really, really sharp. Okay, so before I dive too far into the printing and the details, one thing to make note under the hood. These locomotives came with the ESU Essential Sound Unit. Now, what this is your base model lock sound. No, it's not a lock V5. Scaletrains, of course, and the most recent run of Tier 4s, is doing lock sound V5 in the Operator series. The Dash 9s unfortunately got the base model. That's okay though, we're going to mess with it, see what it has to offer. So the option's there if you want to put in a lock sound, or if you kind of want to settle for a Tsunami, you have that option as well. But again, this is kind of a base kit bash project or entry level model, so do with it as you may. I'll pull the camera back so you guys can get a look at the detail. The logo is crisp and clear, the nice big fat BC Rail font. The silver is accurate. And most importantly for these locomotives, the safety striping on the front looks awesome. I think that's part of my bias to some Canadian rows just because of the awesome use of the striping on front. It makes these locomotives pop 10 times more. Alright, so we're going to start up top with a bird's eye view and work our way down. So one thing I like about Scaletrains right out the bat is they do the number boards very well, even if it is a clear piece of styrene with the numbers behind it. This looks so much better than some alternatives on the market. And going on down the nose, of course, doors on the correct side. The molding looks really good. This is where the handrails will go, so that's easy peasy. You just got to take your time, paint them beforehand, and then pop them right in. The handrails themselves are a little flexible, but nothing too crazy. I mean, this passes the what I call the sneeze test, as in I could probably sneeze on this locomotive and it won't fly off like a certain other company would. Alongside the cab, we have an included mirror. The windows are actually really nicely done, even a silver printing around the back one here. Coming on down to ground level, we have a very basic setup. Again, this is for you to put the detail parts, so the cut lever, all the air lines, all that can be included at your own discretion. I bought this as a project locomotive, so she's getting the full details. And while the Scaletrain couplers look good, likely I'll switch it out to a Katie Whisker coupler just because that's my preference, and I go around to a few different layouts. So that's just me, but it'll run fine out of the box. Even though this is not my favorite livery, it is still very, very sharp. The blue is recreated really well. On camera, due to my lighting, it's showing up a little bit darker than it is. It's more so a vivid blue. The camera's showing it a little flat, but it looks really nice. BC Rail logo is nice, crisp, and clear. It looks great. It's big enough where you can see it. Take some notes, CN, please. Fuel tank detail. It's not bad on this side. You got the sight glass, the stop button. Everything looks good there. Coming on back, radiators. Easy enough. Take some panel liner, darken those up, or powders, whatever you want to do. Rear truck's pretty basic. Coming back to the rear, again, the story's the same. This is an open board for you to add weathering, details, whatever you want to do. So it's very much so plain Jane. But again, this also is an entry model, so we're not expecting a Mona Lisa. So to kind of wrap up the detail on a quick overview of the engineer side, everything looks clean, it looks crisp, it looks very nice for what's marketed as an entry-level product. I mean, if I wasn't adding the rock lights and the details to it, this would be a perfect locomotive for someone just starting out, or someone on a budget, which I commend Scaletrains for because this is a quality budget piece. So the only thing squirrely I've noticed on this locomotive is right here, and I can pretty much tell what it is. It looks like the glued right on this section a little high. So right beneath the BC, you can see it kicks up just a little bit from the below the sill line, and I think that's all it was, is it shifted during production. So that may just be on mine, maybe on others, I don't know, but that's not a complete deal breaker for me. So wrapping up on the head end, everything looks really nice. The GE builder's plate is pronounced and looks really, really good. I commend them for that. Looks solid. Cab numbers clean and crisp, as are the number boards. The stepwell striping, that saved me having to do it, so again, I appreciate Scaletrains for decorating that out of the box. And the ditch lights are correct for the BC being blue, and there is ample room to add rock lights, which I will be doing, so we're going to see how that project plays out. Alright, so overall I think this is a really nice model for the money. Again, keep in mind it's meant as an entry-level piece, so if you're not expecting rivet count or detail, you're going to be a lot happier with this engine. Performance-wise, however, that's just like the rivet counter. I mean, I've test run it a little bit. It's very smooth. The sound decoder, of course, kind of makes it sound a little funky, but we'll get to that in just a second. Alright, so track power on. Here's the headlight. Nice and bright. Ditch lights F6. Gonna have to reprogram that for BC Rail, of course, but you do get flashing ditch lights out of the box. I'm actually going to go through real quick and show you the horns you get in this locomotive. That's done via CV163, and the bell is 164. On the newer ESU boards, you can change the sounds on the fly without having to cycle power. So I just punched it into 0, 163 to value 0. So as you can see in here, the drivetrain is awesome. I mean, like I said, it's the same guts as the rivet counter, just without all the details. So you're getting a very solid mechanism. It weighs a ton. It can pull a ton. So that itself is a great selling point to me. Now, obviously, down the line, they'll probably do this locomotive in rivet counter, and that's going to knock it out of the water. So to me, this is a nice budget piece if you're looking at blue BC Rail -9. Much better than another company where you're going to have to relocate the ditch lights that are mounted below the pilot, do some motor work, add LEDs. Yeah, the cost savings on the operator pretty much pay for themselves. And you get sound too, which you can easily switch out with a 21-pin motherboard and no crazy hard wiring on a direct board needed. Okay, so the speaker in the locomotive isn't crazy loud. It does pretty good, as you can... It's about on par with my Rapido -840 and a few other locomotives. Other sound functions I didn't really mention. F3's coupler crash. F4's dynamic brakes. And that's really about it. Again, this is a base model decoder, so you're not going to get a ton of crazy sounds right out of it. But it does have drive hold, which we will notch up the locomotive and go through that sequence real quick. Alright, so that brings us to the end of this review. Thank you again for watching. I appreciate the support per always, and I hope this is informative in your buying decisions. Final thoughts on this engine: Scaletrains did a really nice job in representing a budget version of the BC Rail -9. While it's not perfect, it wasn't meant to be, and it can easily be upgraded with the detail kit, which I've purchased and will apply. So you guys are going to see this locomotive in another video, fully detailed with all the BC Rail good stuff, horn, rock lights, etc., ready to go. But for the price point of about 150 bucks, you're getting an excellent chassis. It's already got sound, and if you want to switch it out, you can easily do it due to it being a 21-pin interface. So whatever brand you choose to go with, you can work with it in this locomotive, and that's an awesome plus to me. These engines just shipped from Scaletrains, so there's a good chance there's still some left in their online store, or your favorite retailer who stocks Scaletrains most likely has these in stock. So if you want them, go ahead and jump on BC Rail, because as I've learned the hard way, anything BC Rail has a very large tendency of going away quick and going away for a decent sum of cash. So strike now, ask questions later. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.